Welcome to Counselor's Corner. I'm Stacy Hawkins. The purpose of Counselor's Corner is to give you the tools you need to maximize your mental and emotional well-being and nurture your relationships. Today, we're joined by ADA counselor Lisa Parkinson to talk about how students with disabilities can get the accommodations they need to help them be successful at HCC. Thanks for joining us, Lisa.
It's great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
What is an accommodation, and can you give us some examples?
An accommodation is something the college provides to remove barriers to student success. For example, some students may have a diagnosis of ADD or ADHD, and they get distracted when they're taking a quiz or a test. And so an accommodation might be to give them extra time on the timer when they're taking that quiz or that test. Or perhaps they have difficulty focusing or concentrating during lecture and taking notes at the same time, so they'd be allowed to audio record the lecture. Our deaf and hard of hearing students, for instance, might need an interpreter in the classroom, and HCC pays for that service. So they will have, equal access to the information that's being provided to the class.
Now, give us an outline of the process of getting an accommodation and particularly the materials that a student will need to gather.
So what a student needs to do first is contact an ability services counselor at the college or campus they're attending. If it's an online class, there's not an online ADA counselor, so that student can contact any ADA counselor. What they need to do is let it be known that they have a diagnosis of some sort and that they're seeking accommodations. What we then do is email them, or if we're meeting them in person, we have them complete our intake forms, which consist of a consent for services, rights and responsibilities, and then basic demographic information that we like to have. Documentation that we needs to specifically state the student's diagnosis, their disability, be mental health, it can be physical, medical health, it can be learning disabilities, reading, writing, and math. It needs to be detailed enough that we know through the assessment or evaluation what exactly the student is challenged with, so to speak. If it's a medical condition, then we need like a letter from the doctor explaining what the diagnosis is and how it affects them in their daily life. What are the limitations? And then we take that information through interview with the student to get an idea on how does all of that impact them academically. What are the challenges and the barriers that they tend to face when they're trying to take classes? Because our goal is to try to remove those barriers as best as we can to provide an equal access. We don't call this a letter for success, as we can't guarantee anyone's success, because these students have to work extra hard. They have to spend more time studying, spend more time reading, whatever it is that they're challenged with, so that they can, have an equal opportunity at success like with their classmates. And our website actually has detailed information on what type of documentation we require for these accommodations that they might be interested in.
Some of our students are the traditional young coming directly out of high school. They might be advocating for themselves as a young adult the first time, and they may be a little intimidated. Can you give some words of encouragement to those students?
First thing we want to say is you are not alone in this process. The ability services counselors were ready to help our first-time students, our returning students. Sometimes students feel comfortable bringing a parent or a guardian to that initial intake, interview that we do, just to have that back support, and that's fine. But ultimately, it is the student's choice to complete the process. And so we just want students to know that it's not an intimidating, process at all. We make this as simple as possible. We really go to the depths of explaining what the student is doing, encouraging the student to, come back to us semester after semester, because it can't hurt. It's really only built intentionally to help.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
If you'd like more information about this and other mental health care topics, as well as learning about all the services provided by the counseling department, visit hccs.edu/counseling. For Counselor's Corner, I'm Stacy Hawkins.